Oh gosh.
Wait, it says, hold on. It says there's an error. We're going to try again.
It said live.
Ah! Okay, now we're live. You guys, oh my gosh. I had like just a flurry of technical difficulties like 2 seconds before we came on. First, I couldn't hear myself, but I thought that nobody could hear me. So I'm like swearing up a storm, and Michelle and Robert are like, we can hear you, we can hear you. But of course I cannot hear them. And then I hit the button that says to go live, and it says there is like it says we're live, but also StreamYard says there's a problem. You're not live. So probably more swearing. I'm not sure if that happened or not. So here,
Uh,
so here we are. Let's start again. Yay! Hello, everybody. We're super happy to see you today. I'm Lisa Daly, and with me, as always, are the fabulously talented Michelle Schusterman and Robert Jones, aka the Story Detective. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to do a little writing. Let's get started and do some introductions before we get started with the writing. I am going to start with you first today, Michelle. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
all right. I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write middle grade and young adult novels, and my channel is Writing Workshops, Traditional Publishing Chat, and Writing Blog.
Thank you so much for being here today. Robert, tell us a little bit about you and your awesome channel before we get rolling today.
I am Robert Jones, the story detective, the only one in all the world to quote Sherlock Holmes. And my channel, taking those various forms of storytelling and put it under my Sherlockian microscope and breaking down the craft in ways that will make your journey much easier.
Nice. Love that.
Yet again, just a little bit.
I know. I love that you like tweak it just a teeny bit every time. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a traditionally published and indie published author. That makes me a hybrid. And I write contemporary romance and nonfiction advice. Speaking of which, I have a brand new book that just came out. I'm super excited called How to, oh, look, you can see there it is. How to write a self-help book in 14 days, which I'm so excited about. Except I just went on a trip over the weekend to pick up the baby visitor, and so my book launch was like Friday, which I think I explained to you guys why it was on such a weird day. And so I just did not get all my stuff finished. So I go, well, it's a good thing it's an evergreen title because sometimes these things happen. So let's say hi to some of our friends, and then I want to talk. We were talking a little bit backstage about Michelle's new video, and Robert had some thoughts, and I wanted to talk about that today. So let's go ahead and say hi to some of our friends in the chat, and then we'll do our first 5-minute warm up, and then we'll come back and chit chat about what's going on with Michelle's video. Lainey's here. Hello, Lainey. Super glad to see you today. Devin's here. Hello. Super happy to see you today. Miss Texas G. So let me just give you a personal shout out. I saw that you had messaged me, and I did not put the baby down for the last like 4 days. So I did see it. I will respond to you, and I'm very sorry that it has taken me several days, but I have a really adorable reason why. All right. Yay. Yay. All right. Hello, Daisy. Super glad to see you today. Doll is here. Hello, Doll. We're super glad you are here today. Yay. uh, we're so glad you made it. Mary Putnam is here. Hello from California. Rebecca's here. Ooh, I'm super glad you're here today. Yay. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, I love this name. Is it so if you could please give us a phonetic pronunciation so that we do not butcher your name every time we say it. Is it Pasqua, or something completely different? So just give us a little pronunciation guide, please, in the chat. But welcome. We are super glad you are here today. So we have some good questions to talk about today. And Robert actually had a question for Michelle based on her most recent video. Yay, we got it. All right, fantastic. And so I wanted to like talk about that because I thought it was a really interesting decision making process that you made. So let's go ahead and do our 5-minute warm up sprint, and then when we come back, we are going to talk all about Robert's exciting question. Dun, dun, dun. And everyone's like, what is it? RC is here. Hello, RC. We're super glad to see you today. All right, so let's get that timer up. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. All right, fantastic. Okay, everybody, we got 5 minutes up on the clock and we are going to get started right now. Go ahead and get those documents open, get your giant vat of caffeine, whatever that may be, or just a nice, vat of water. So your little brain stays moisturized while you're writing. Today's going to be a goofy day. I can tell already. Here, I know sometimes you're like, I can't get it together. I'm just going to flow. Just going to go with that weirdness. Anyway, so here we go, guys. I'm going to put 5 minutes up on the timer and let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Let's write. All right, we are back. So if I look like I was doing like some form of desk exercise, it's because 2 seconds before we came on, I ran over to the other side of the house to get my big checklist of all the stuff that I need to do for my lunch, and I realized just now I have no idea what I just did with. I literally brought it over here and it's completely disappeared. So I was like looking up, down. So if you were just watching from home and you had no idea what I was doing, you might think I was doing like some sort of just trying to stay in shape here at the desk. Okay. So what is everybody working on today?
I'm working on editing my novel, getting into that final mile to the finish.
I love that part because it's done. You just, all you're doing is just making it better.
Yeah.
I love the wordsmithy part. That's my absolute
is fun.
favorite. Yeah. How about you, Michelle? What are you working on today?
I have a book coach client who has a notes from her editor, and I am going through them and helping her organize how she's going to tackle it because it's a big one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. That's fantastic. I will be working on my checklist if I am able to find it. If I cannot find it, I will just have to print a new one and recheck off all the things I've done, which maybe that would be fun. Maybe that would make me feel like I have had a little, not that I'm late, that I've just got some momentum. Maybe I'll do that. Because the other one, I'm pretty, it came with me on the plane. It got all folded up and wadded up and all that stuff. Maybe a new one is the way to go. Okay. So let's talk about, here we go. Avi says, hi friends, happy hump day. Love Michelle's video. Been a long time member for Substack, but just joined her paid subscription.
Thank you.
Yay! That's very nice. Fantastic. We're so glad you guys are here. Let's see. Pasqua. Is it where's the emphasis? Is it on pas or qua? Is it Pasqua or Pasqua? Pasqua. Okay. I love that. It's a beautiful name. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. The video about books sold versus agents not wanting the next book. Yes. Okay. So that's the video. If you have not seen it yet, perhaps Michelle could drop a link in the chat, and then we'll get rolling on that. While you're doing that, Robert, why don't you tell everybody what your question was for Michelle this morning, so that everybody's on the same page.
Well, the initial thought that went through my head is, would this be a good time to cross over and become a self-published author as well?
So do a little hybrid for Michelle.
Hybrid thing, yeah.
Yeah. So Michelle, will you give us like just sort of a quick overview about what the video was about, so we can, before people, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet?
Easy. Okay. So my last 4 books that have come out in the last 3 years have sold a combined total of almost 500,000 copies, which is awesome.
That's huge. Wait, hold on. I think before we go anywhere, I think you know what's coming, but we have to do it. That's awesome. 500,000 copies. That's huge. Okay.
Right. So I have been on submission with another very similar middle grade book since October. And we did have my sales figures for the previous books in my submission, so agents would know what they were. And everybody's passed. Like, I think the submission is pretty much over because everybody else, like, there's a bunch of non-responders my agent has nudged a bunch of times, and they're just, like, ghosting, apparently.
Right.
So that was the reason I made the video, is because the title is like, I sold 500,000 books and my publishers don't want the next one. But it was really to show how context matters, because there was this piece that went viral last week about how people don't read books anymore, which is of course BS.
Yes.
And it's because these little factoids came out about the Department of Justice Penguin Random House trial, and people, while they are shocking, they're also taken wildly out of context. And when you have some context, they're either like straight up not true, or they just make a little more sense and it's not as alarmist as we think. And in my case, the context is that my sales, first of all, were not hardcover sales. They were paperback sales, and they were super cheap paperback sales because most of them came from the Scholastic Clubs and Fairs, which produces books at an exceptionally low cost so families can buy more of them for their kids. So like the net profit to the publisher was not the same as if I had sold 500,000 copies of hardcovers, which is what title kind of, which is what people think when they see the title. So
Right.
there's also the context that while of course a sale is a sale and a reader is a reader, the fact that most of my sales come from clubs and fairs and not from trade, not from bookstores, is a piece that publishers would have to keep in mind when they're deciding whether or not to acquire my next book, and also how much of an advance to offer me. It is different. It's just a different piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So just to show that context. And as far as why I'm not self-publishing that particular book, one, again, my success is because of my books being in schools. And I don't know how to get a self-published middle grade novel in schools. Like on that level, there's no way I wouldn't be able to do it. And my previous sales wouldn't matter. And number two, that book has a partial graphic novel format. Like a huge chunk of the story, I wrote graphic novel script instead of prose for. So if I were going to self-publish it, in addition to the cost of like hiring a cover, blah, 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 all that stuff, I would also have to hire an illustrator to do a huge chunk of work. And frankly, I don't have the funds for that.
And that is like, so, I mean, hiring an illustrator it is really, really pricey, because you're not just talking about the cover illustration, which can be pricey itself, but you're right for the entire book.
As it should be. Illustrators should charge for their amazing work.
Absolutely. Yeah. but it is a massive factor to take on. Publishers often have, illustrators in house, or they'll have illustrators that they, work with on a regular basis, and they have the resources to sort of float that, knowing what the book sales are going to be later. So, that makes perfect sense. I know as soon as you said that, because initially when Robert asked the question, I was like, ooh, this would be a great opportunity for you. But then when you started talking about the graphic novel and the fact that so many of your books are sold at school fairs, that's a really hard market to sort of crack. And the thing is like,
if I had written like a YA thriller and it was getting passed on, I might try self-publishing it. I'm not adverse to that at all. But it would have to be a genre that I would feel like I could afford to self-publish it well, and that I think would at least have a chance at finding the target audience. But this book, I just don't think it would.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Options, though. There are some other options, though. I don't know how far we want to get into it here, but
I'm curious.
There are comic book companies. In fact, there is a small and rising comic book company who just bought a company whose name I can't think of, who did children's stories. So they do not only do comic books, but they bought this other company that gave them instant reputation. So they actually do comics and graphic novels and stuff like that would be marketed towards children. It just so happens the vice president is a guy that I trained and gave him his first publishing credit. So,
well, if only we knew someone who could connect Michelle to this particular publisher. Let's think about, while we're having our next writing sprint, who we might know who could facilitate that sort of organization. I will say for everybody here who's watching is that so much of your success will be based on the connections that you make and the partnerships that you make with other authors, and just kind of this, like, hey, do you, like, my editor can't take me, do you know somebody who's reasonable, who can get this done in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, like those types of the stronger your author network is, just other friends in the business, the easier it is going to be for you to be engaged in all kinds of partnerships and things like that are going to help kind of push things along for you. I love this, Robert. You not only asked the question, you had like a potential, possible, maybe solution.
There's always possibilities. I mean, I don't know exactly what their payment is like or royalties, but it would solve the problem of finding an illustrator, because
that's huge.
Comic book companies chock-a-block with illustrators, I would imagine. Yeah, lots and lots. I still love word slingers. I'm going to say that. Very nice. Maddie has a question for you also. Today, we should do like today's Ask Michelle Day. I have a question for Michelle. I was wondering if she feels like middle grade is oversaturated like YA used to be.
I don't think it's oversaturated on the level that YA was in that period of time where we were in a like post Hunger Games Twilight heyday.
Yeah.
It's not on that level. I do think right now it is the oversaturation is more coming from the fact that it is harder to get middle grade novels, especially by debut authors, just on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, period.
Right.
Especially if it's hardcover, because a lot of them just aren't doing that anymore. And there is sadly a real shift towards middle grade, towards publishers and bookstores focusing on franchises instead of just like original new works. Like here's a great example. I was on submission to one editor at an imprint at a big house. The imprint was a perfect fit. Like when you looked at what my book was with the partial graphic novel thing, it was the exact kind of thing they wanted to experiment with, and they did experiment with. And I had very high hopes for that particular editor. Well, I found out about a month into being on submission that imprint was not closing, but essentially closing to submissions because they are pivoting entirely to only doing franchises. And that's not, they're not the only ones. So the oversaturation is not coming from like so many middle grade novels as it is from booksellers and sales teams thinking, I guess kids only want to read tie-ins. I think yes. And that's just where they're seeing all the money coming from, sadly. And
although the other thing though is that we have a really good example of what's going on with the Marvel movies right now, where they have just sort of petered out their audience. They did, they did some really good stuff for a really long time and developed this massive ravenous fan base. But I think most of the Marvel movie fans will tell you that the last 3, 4, 5, 6 pictures have not been what people expected, as far as being funny and be like, the effects are there and all that, but there's not.
Sometimes the effects are awful because sometimes
they are there.
People,
but that's it. Like they're just kind of churning out Marvel content for their and that idea, like that. Oh, this is a cash cow, but we're seeing like every cash cow. There's a bell curve to it. And Marvel, unless they do something dramatic to stop that downward shift, and there are still people that will go, but it used to be like your entire family would go.
Well, here's the thing. There's so much content from them now that it's hard to keep up, and it takes away the specialness of it being an event, like you said, where everyone would go, like, let's all go see Endgame together. That was like a huge deal.
Right.
Now it's just like, God, there's another show. I hadn't even heard about it. Like Disney Plus has a million Marvel tie-in shows.
Right. I thought that was when it first started. Like I thought what was the one with the Scarlet Witch one? I thought that WandaVision. Yeah, WandaVision. I thought that was so clever and so well, right? Cool. It was so clever and so well done.
Yeah.
But the later ones, it just eventually, like, the effort just wasn't there. And I do think like there was something about there being kind of too much of it. As much as we enjoyed WandaVision, and then there was the one with Hawkeye. Like I just remember there was like Captain America the musical, which was very like funny visual of the anyway. But like that. Those shows like were fun, and that was like a fun sort of little interim thing, but it also kind of felt like, oh, we just saw like 9 other things. So I totally get that. So
big mistake is they took their major characters and major storylines and they did them first, and then either due to contracts with the actors or God only knows why, they killed off their major characters, and then they're left with secondary characters and secondary storylines that they need to put before the public and hope to make something of it. And when they're not as strong as the first ones to begin with,
right,
you've got several hurdles to overcome before you're going to reach that success again.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to keep talking about this because I really want to talk about the idea of oversaturation in a specific subgenre and how, and in some ways in which that happens, but also strategies for you as an author if you are writing in that type of subgenre. Because a lot of times people go like, oh, I just got to middle grade and I love it, and now it's over. So let's talk about it's never over. So let's talk about that when we get back. But it's 11:26 Eastern time, so we want to make sure that we get some writing in today, even though I could have this conversation all day long because there are so many good places it can go. So we'll talk more about it and answer some more questions when we come back. Let's do a sprint, everybody. So let us know, first of all, in the chat, what you are going to be working on today. I can't remember if I answered. Oh, I did answer. I'm going to track down my checklist and see what I have left to do and start knocking some of that stuff off. So let us know in the chat what you will be working on today. And we're going to get started with 20 minutes on the clock. Here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. All right, we are back. Dun, da, da. All right, let's unmute Michelle. Okay, cool. So here is the link right in the chat. You can find for Michelle's video that we were talking about earlier. If we were worried about that. If you wanted to check out that video, I'm sorry, my brain, right? And then I asked everybody what they were working on today. Doll says, just made coffee, working on some scripts for future videos. Yay. Fantastic. Lainey is swapping critiques with another author on a super rough draft, reading her work right now, trying not to sweat while she has mine. I feel that. Kara, nice job working on a short story with the 5K cap. Very good. All right. Pasqua, very nice. Thank you very much for sharing with us, and we are so happy for you happy you're with us today, and also how patient you are. Doll says, note on the connections, you don't have to be on social media all the time to have writer connections. Yep, that's true. You don't have to be on social media at all. It's just important to make friends in the industry. And especially it's important to make friends who are, some friends who have more experience than you do, but also some friends who are sort of on the same path that you are around the same time, because you'll all be growing your careers together. Fingers crossed. Coffee Creek Connect says, hi, can't stay working on revisions, listening in while I take a break. Thank you so much. We're so glad you're here today. But didn't they just kill about everybody in the end game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing.
So Iconic's here. Wish I could join, but I'm at work. Educator here, former days of school. Yay! Good job.
It's already that time of year. Jeez.
It's so true. Maddie's been wanting to publish some middle grade, so I'm all for that conversation. I think it can be done. I mean, that's the thing is I think if you're thinking about publishing middle grade and you're not in a situation where, I mean, definitely for school age books, those Scholastic book fairs are like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, you got every school and the kids like literally take their little, whatever their money to the, that my kids used to love those things. Love, love, love. So yeah, I can see that's definitely something. I did want to talk about something that we had sort of touched on before that we didn't really delve into. And that is this idea about whether or not or what to do if like the thing that you write in is oversaturated. And if you so one thing that happens in publishing in particular is that something breaks out and starts selling well, or a couple books in a certain subgenre start selling well. What will happen is a bunch of other authors will go cha-ching, cha-ching, and everybody will like lemmings over here, and then suddenly there's a ton. And this happened to chick lit back in the day. It was a thing. It became very popular. And then what happened was a lot of publishers were like, ooh, everybody wants chick lit, so we'll just slap some pastel covers with feet on them onto our regular romance books. And chick lit was different. Like the characters were also focused on their careers in addition to just romance. So it was like chick lit was often characterized as straight romance, but it was more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
But what happened was then all of a sudden, like 2006, 7, 8, all of a sudden YA in particular, or chick lit in particular, is crazy oversaturated. Now publishers don't want to buy it. Of course, all these authors have been working on stuff. So what do? They tweak those stories and make them YA. And I know a ton of chick lit authors who then rushed right into YA because that was what was selling in that sort of heyday right there around 2008 with Twilight, The Hunger Games, and all that. So then we started seeing kind of more of that. So I think that I know this is something, this cyclical nature of publishing happens all the time. And like for me, I remember when you could not sell a vampire novel to publishers.
Yeah.
They would literally say on their submission requirements, no vampires, no werewolves, no blah, blah, blah. They just didn't want it. And then all of a sudden Twilight was massive, and there were all these and that sort of lifted the tide for all these other vampire books. But Charlene Harris, who wrote vampire books, who you would know because True Blood was based on her stuff. She had written vampire books and continued to write them even when they were not favorable. And I think there's an old baseball expression, hit them where they ain't, but basically meaning like when you hit the ball out into the outfield, do you want to hit it where there are not people there who will get it and, get you out? And so I think there's some benefit to that. Yes, when I was shocked at how many people just bought my hockey romance book because they love hockey romance and they were like, "Oh, that's it. Like, I want that. I like that kind of book." And that was like the first time where I was like in when I was in a subgenre that was hitting at the same time it was hitting, not after or before. And so there is something to that. But also, if you love middle grade and you're worried like, oh, it's oversaturated, you can do two things. You can either try to write to market like everybody else, or you can just stay your path and write those books that you love and find your audience. And then when it comes back around and middle grade is the place to be again, there you are with a massive backlist. So now I have said my 2 cents. Let's say hi to some of our commenters. There we go. So let's see where we go. Dun, dun, dun. Where did we do? So here was Michelle's video. And okay, Maddie says, I'm wanting to self-publish some middle grade. So I already got that. So I'm all for that conversation. Miss Texas G working on the last 2 chapters of her rom-com. Yay. Fantastic. Coffee's getting back to work. But what instantly makes you DNF a book? For anybody who's not familiar, DNF means did not finish. You'll see that littered all over Goodreads. Well, really bad writing will always make me DNF. Yeah. And I am I'll generally give it, a little bit of a chance. But if you have not hooked me in by like the 2nd chapter, I'm just done. Life is too short. I will say my my friend Lisa McLeod and I were both were asked by a former Publishers Weekly writer if we would read and potentially blurb her novel, which was semi-autobiographical. And it was about dating again, as she'd been married for a long time and she became single, and then she was dating again and dating a younger man, and felt some discomfort about this age gap thing. And we both started it. Lisa and I both started at the same time. And I DNF'd that thing about, I don't know. I mean, I gave it, she was a PW writer, so I gave it more time than I would have. I probably read like 7 or 8 chapters. But Lisa finished the thing. And the whole time she's like, this is awful. This is so terrible. This is so awful. And she was not hate reading it. She just is one of those people that feels obligated to finish a book.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, nope, it was terrible. I actually gave it more of a chance than I would have normally, just because of, because I liked the person who had written it, but I just could not finish it. And I definitely could not blurb it. So
yeah, I don't like the DNF books either, but there was one recently that I just couldn't finish because it was driving me crazy. Yeah. It was a self-help book, and you could tell that the guy did his research on his subject because there was interesting technical points. Got to how this is going to affect your life. It was the same thing that I read in so many other books. And here again, it's be different. Do your take on it. Hit it where people are going.
Yeah.
Like I just can't listen to this guy try to be the cheerleader on stuff that's done like dozens of times, and I just said no, I got to be done.
Right. That's it. I mean, we only have so much time in our lives, and there are so many good books out there that I would rather spend my time wasting. I'd rather spend my time reading one of those. I totally feel that. It is. I find that I'm more like, I used to give nonfiction and self-help in general more of a pass, because a lot of times people who know how to do things can write self-help books that are really useful to us as people that are not particularly well written. And I think there's a lower bar writing wise for nonfiction than there is for fiction. But I do find that now I am more particular. Like I used to be more forgiving, and then now I'm kind of like I'll just be silent. I'll still read it, but I'll be like silently editing in my head, or sometimes loudly to the horror geek because he also is. Hello, Green Frog. We are super happy to see you today. Lysandra's here. Hello, happy Wednesday to you. All right, Green Frog writing a novel that I've been holding for 7 years now. Wait, it's 8 year.
Wow.
There's going to be interaction. Yes, here we are. Okay, so tell us about this book that you have been writing, and is it fiction or nonfiction? And let us know a little bit. And I want to know, why haven't you published it or sent it out if you've been working on it for 8 years? Time to go. Sometimes you just start making it worse. All right, so here we go. Green Frog also says Mr. Roberts' chair and room are giving me comfy vibes. Aw.
I'm all about the comfy.
Yeah, you are. I know, if you guys check out Robert's Instagram, he's had like a couple pictures lately of his, like, just sort of his little writing space. So like this comfy couch, which looks like, your couch looks like it's really soft. It looks like it's like covered in like velvet or corduroy, like some sort of like snuggly type of fabric. So yeah, if you need more comfy writer vibes, head on over to Robert's Instagram.
When I first started out, I thought, be Spartan. I just had my desk, like a dresser that I kept supplies in, and nothing for distractions. And then after I did that for a while, I'm like, yeah, I need some comfort.
Yeah, well, and there is something, like, I love my little office. I think like there's something cozy about it. And I think there is something. Now, that said, some people will use like decorating their office as an excuse to procrastinate for writing. You do not need the perfect writing shoes or the perfect writing outfit or the perfect writing anything. You can definitely write anywhere. However, it is nice if you're going to be in a space every day to make it something that you love. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, how do you guys research? Do all of you have the same methods? My guess would be no, but often we, there's some crossover. So, Robert, you write historical fiction. So I feel like there's always more research involved with that. How do you do research?
A number of things. I mean, I read a lot of historical novels. There's a lot of stuff online these days that you can look up. Those are like quicker fixes and, articles. If you're going to go in depth, and of course you need to get a book on the subject. That works for me because I need to have my workbook and my information there that I can open up to and take notes and just have that handy. It's a little bit old school, but I fill up legal pads with information, and when I have the legal pad closing on about halfway full, I know I have enough stuff to start. I'm enthused enough to begin.
It's so funny that you say that, because I can totally picture you in your comfy office with your stuff all around you and your one of your fabulous keyboards. Because if you guys don't know Robert, he is like a keyboard aficionado, and there you go, and the legal pad and all that. I can totally see that. Michelle, how about you? How do you do research?
It really depends on the project. Like in the past, the last time I wrote historical fiction was a ghostwriting project, and the client who hired me actually mailed me a couple of books for research. And so what I did in that case was I read the books and I created a Google Doc to share between us, and organized it with the chapters on the side, and just like, here's notes on the character, here's notes on the setting here, and just kept pulling, reading. And, I love the idea of doing it on a notepad, but my handwriting is so garbage. Even if that had just been a book for me, I think I use either Scrivener if it's my project, or Google Docs if I'm sharing it with someone, and try to just like pull everything that I think is relevant and organize it generally in terms of relevant to the characters, relevant to the plot, the setting. That's it. Yeah, that's how I started. Anyway.
No, I think that's great. So for me, because I write contemporary and nonfiction, I primarily will research on, because usually, like with my nonfiction stuff, I generally have a pretty good idea of what I want to say. But I will do online research if I'm looking for a stat on something, like so many, 84% of Americans want to write a book or something like that. So So I do that a lot. And then often when I'm writing fiction, it sort of depends on what I'm trying to do. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was writing The Cutting Edge, there's a scene where it's like a playoff game, and that was, sorry, I should be more specific, hockey romance. There's a scene where it's a playoff game. And I really wanted to, like, even though I watch hockey on a regular basis, I don't watch it in the sense that I'm looking at how they, like, I'm just enjoying the game. I'm not looking specifically about how they move and how they like slide up to a goal, or how they, what they look like when they fight and things like that. And so I was watching games. If I'd had time, I would have actually gone to a game to watch to sort of get more of the ambiance. But by the time I wrote that scene, I was pretty close to my deadline. So there was that. Sometimes I call and make and do interviews. When I was writing 15 Minutes of Shame, I had a little, what started out as a little plot point about the main character. I wanted her to have children, but I also wanted her to not be dealing with the children while she was going through the main part of the story. And so I decided to make them her stepchildren. So she was very attached to them and she loved them very much. But then when she didn't have custody of them later in the book, you understand why, because she's their step parent. And but the kids sort of started taking over the story, and I was doing an interview with with a family law attorney, actually on another topic for an article I was working on, and I just asked him the question about, hey, what happens with this? What happens if you're the step parent but you're really the primary parent? Because that happens a lot, right? You have somebody who gets married to someone who already has kids. Let's say dad already has kids from a prior relationship, and maybe he has custody, and the stepmom, and it's often the stepmom, ends up taking care of those kids, becomes attached to them as you're supposed to, right? But then if they get divorced, the mother or the stepmother has no legal rights to the kids, and that makes sense in some ways and not in others. But that was fascinating to me, that you could have these kids that you're really attached to, that you love, that you've been with for half their lives, and that then they're suddenly ripped away from you. And that conversation with him ended up being really illuminating. There were things that I did not think to ask him that he shared with me, like the idea of like infidelity in some states. There have been lawsuits about infidelity where the wife can sue the mistress for something called alienation of affection, and it's basically harkens back to that, 100 years ago, when wives were considered property, and it was not, these laws are on the books. So these are things that I never would have known had I not had like an actual old school in-person interview. And I know a lot of people who write mysteries will often interview cops or attorneys just to kind of see like, hey, what would happen in this, or what does the law say in that? So interviews, books, online. Am I missing anything? Oh, and just showing up to the thing, if you can actually do that, if you can experience it. All right. I hope that answered your question, Green Frog. Let's see. Regina's got good stuff. Green Frog research with YouTube. That's another good place to find some good information. And Google for fiction. Everybody does it different. Everybody should go sign up for Michelle's Substack. Just saying. Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Yay. Yay, Dante. That's so awesome. Fantastic. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do another quick sprint. Not quick, 20 minutes, same as always. But let's go ahead and get started on that, because we want to make sure that we are getting, hold on, I somehow morphed into the exciting fireplace thing, and that's not for us. We don't want fireplaces. We want the beach. All right, here we go. Okay, everybody, let's get ready. We got 20 minutes up on the clock, and we are going to do another 20-minute writing sprint. Get those little fingers all stretched out. You can do this. Let's hit it. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. Okay, sorry about that. I was like just pasting something in. So, all right, how did everybody do on that last sprint? Yeah.
Getting there.
Somebody had asked me if if I'd gotten a new webcam. I think it was CO Savvy. But she'd asked if I'd gotten a new webcam because I was super pale. And my challenge is that it's super dark here today. There's actually been a tornado warning. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. If I disappear or we start having the stream from under my desk, that is why. But we had a tornado warning in the area earlier, and it's kind of dark and yucky outside. So I turned up my studio lights, and on my camera, like there's a little monitor, and it looked like bright, or it looked normal, but on StreamYard it looks super dark. And so I turned up the lights, but apparently I should be trusting what's on the camera and not on my monitor, because if I look like a ghost, that means StreamYard is not giving me an accurate representation. So love this. Oh, Doll's got a good question. Let us know, you guys, how you did on that last chat on the last sprint. We're dying to know. Doll's got a good question. Questions: is Substack really the best platform of that kind for writers? Does it depend on the genres we write in?
Okay. Since I'm on Substack, I will say I am only, my newsletters and what I publish are about writing and publishing the craft and the industry. I'm not actually doing fiction on there. There is a community of people publishing their fiction in a variety of genres on Substack. Honestly, I have no idea how successful they are at it or how easy it is to reach people. But I haven't read it yet, but I do know that the person who wrote the viral piece last week about how nobody buys books anymore had some pretty lofty claims in there about how Substack was the future of publishing, which I think we need to slow our roll on that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, come on. However, she did just publish another piece about, I think it's about how she's going to approach making Substack the primary place for her writing. And I'd be curious to read that because it's always interesting to see what other people are doing with the platform.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers your question, Doll, but I know there's a community for fiction on there. That's about it.
Well, and I always think of Substack as being sort of a cross between an email platform and a blog. Like a lot of people do their newsletters on Substack.
Right.
And if you're using it for that, so one thing I love about Substack is that, one, it makes it really easy to share or restack things and find other Substacks that are sort of in the same kind of vertical. But one of the things that I don't, so a couple things. One of the things I really like, that there's the ability to do paid subscriptions. I think that's pretty cool. I love how easy the platform is. I love that you're sending it to someone's email, but like people can comment on it almost like it's a blog, like it's 2007 or something, and it's right. So I love that part of it. What I don't love is that for writer or for readers, like to bring people into your mailing list, that it's really helpful to have those sort of automations where someone maybe picks up the freebie that you're giving away, and then you sort of send them like a series of emails to kind of introduce them to you and your other works and that type of thing. And so Substack, you can't do that. Like you can't do those kind of automations. And so that would be my one. Like as soon as I saw Substack, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to move my whole thing over there. I love it. But then as soon as I realized that I could not do that other sort of more markety stuff, I have not. So I'm playing with the idea of doing like a half and half. So I'll let you guys know how that goes. But that best platform depends on if you're not doing automations. I think Substack is phenomenal, and it's free, so that's great. So you're not paying for MailerLite, or whatever else, whatever other platform you're using. But yeah, there's some really great benefits to Substack, but it also has some deficits. Robert, any thoughts on this before we move to the next thing?
Well, I haven't done Substack, but I'm considering it after what Michelle has said last week and this week.
Yeah, it's a great platform. Let's see. Green Frog says, Oh, what's this? Oh, let's see. Respectfully, I think a few of us were hoping Michelle could have a chance to answer the middle grade market question. I think Michelle did answer that question.
Yeah, I did. Didn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty
I
sure. the
Uh,
answer to is middle grade too oversaturated is
Is in short, yes, but not in on the level or for the same reasons as young adult was. It's more about uh, publishers and bookstores focusing on franchises in that for that target age group.
mm-hmm. There you go.
Short answer.
Very, very nice. Ooh, Avi's got a good question. Oh, Avi was the one who said I look like a ghost. Thank you for that update. So I have fixed it. Let me know if I still look like a ghost because
You
I
do
can't
not
trust.
look like you.
Okay, thank you. Because I can't trust my monitors. Avi says, I know Michelle has vignettes in her Secrets of Top Sea series. I love using vignettes in my stories. Any tips for making them more effective in a story? I love this question.
That is a good question. Also, how fun. For in Secrets of Topsy, it was I wrote that with a co-author, and the vignettes were like we wanted to have fun with them and use them primarily as like a world building kind of thing, but
Uh-huh.
always make sure in some little way it moves the story forward. So that could be like by doing the fun thing where you provide the reader with a little key piece of information that maybe your characters don't have yet to create tension and
Love
like
that.
and foreshadow at things to come.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I love the idea of using it as a way to drop in a little
Yeah.
piece of a little goodie that the characters don't have, but the reader gets because then they feel like, ooh, look what I do. So
Exactly.
I love that. Anytime you can help the reader feel like they're in on the secret is always a good thing. Let's see. Laura says, I'm gonna handwrite this first draft. So excited. My handwriting is great, but my spelling's atrocious. That's okay, because eventually you're gonna have to put it into some sort of, electronic document.
It'll get
And yep, and spell check is great then. So it's funny though, often people think, and I'm not saying Laura thinks this, but often people think that spelling is connected to being a good writing, and those are two completely different skills. There are plenty of fantastic writers who cannot spell for crap, and that is okay. If you're one of those people, it's totally cool. That's what spell check is invented for. Let's see. Laura says my family was cursed. Someone would get the flu every time we went to a hockey game. Love that. That's very funny. Oh, and Regina does not need to attend the hockey games to catch the flu every time it's around. Green Frog, we are super excited that you are going to work on your book this year. Very, very nice. Let's see what we've got here. Green Frog says, I feel extremely awkward to consider myself a writer when I have done nothing. Well, it sounds to me like you plotted a whole book. You're just getting to the writing part. What do you guys think? Let's take a vote.
agree.
Who thinks Green Frog's a writer? I do. Okay, so that's it. It's official. You have now been deemed a writer. Congratulations. It's the greatest job in the world. Okay. Let's move on. Let's see. There you go. John Stevenson's here. Hello. Green Frog, it makes you a writer, just not an author yet. But we know that's coming. Very, very nice. Terrific. All right, so sorry, I'm going. Miss Texas Cheese says I was not able to see Michelle's link. I will. Sometimes that happens because we all broadcast at the same time, so I'll go back through and grab it and repost it. So hopefully, everybody will get it. Imaginary editor protest. You know what? Ignore that imaginary editor at least all the way through your first draft. Okay. All right. Sandaru's here. Hello. We are super glad you made it today. My debut note, we have a lot of MG classes or MG questions today. That's good. I love it when we have a little theme going. My debut novel is a middle grade detective series. It cannot survive as a standalone, even if each story is a standalone. I was told that I should not query to agents this as a series. It doesn't survive as it's a middle grade detective series.
Well, okay, here's something that this comes up a lot, and people get very upset when they feel like they can't say it's a series. You don't have to say it's a series or a standalone.
That's true.
Here's the real test. This is what editors and agents actually care about. are you ending this book on a complete and total cliffhanger, or are you finishing the story and setting up another one? There's a huge difference.
There
The
is a huge.
first one is going to get rejected. The second one they'll consider.
Yeah. Well, not only consider like that. Well, and this is not to say you can't end a book on with a cliffhanger. You
Mm,
just have to resolve the primary story. So
exactly.
you have to have a full story arc in each book.
Right.
So there can be threads that are unresolved that you're going to answer in future books. I had somebody explain this to me at a how she was writing cliffhangers in her romance novels. She'd say, "Oh, I end everyone on a cliffhanger," and I'm always fascinated how people, how they different authors approach this,
Mhm.
and right. And she said, like, yes, the entire story is resolved, but at the end, like, okay, we're just about to get our happily ever after. Our couple's at the they're at the altar, they're just getting married, and the second they say I do, the groom leans over and whispers in her ear, by the way, Frank isn't really my name. Like, that's a cliffhanger, right? I was like, oh, I want to say, now I need to read the second book. What? Right? Which is a great cliffhanger. But we've already, let's say, Martha, Frank and Martha's story, they met, they broke up, they fell in love. Like, that has all been resolved.
Right.
But that little cliffhanger has set the stage for a what that leads right into the second book. And maybe that's something that's resolved right away. Maybe there's some issue with that same couple, or it leads into another couple. But you have to resolve, in order for it to be a book, you have to resolve that story. Otherwise, it's just parts of the same story, if that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
when I think about, like, I guess it was just the film. I was thinking that last Harry Potter book the film was in two parts, but the book itself actually was not. So never mind.
Right.
I'm sure there are books that are in two parts. There must be, but I wouldn't do it. I think it pisses off readers. They
Yeah.
deserve to have the full story in the book. Let's see. I've heard the same thing. If you pitch it to an agent as a series, then they worry it doesn't have a proper standalone ending and might not want to ask for the whole manuscript. Yeah, I think generally speaking, like when I think about debut authors talking to agents and or editors about when they're planning a series, that you pitch it as pitch the book as like a full story, but
Mhm.
then you say this has serious potential, or I see this as the first book in a XX series.
Right.
That's a good way to approach that.
I think potential is the key word to use if
Yeah,
you're going to talk about it at all. But again, you don't have to say anything in
you
your
don't.
query. Just say this is a novel because it is.
Yeah,
You
that's exactly right.
know?
And the other thing is, a lot of publishers are looking for series. In fact, there are some publishers, especially mid-sized publishers, that only want to publish series
Right.
because it's easier to build an audience instead of one book at a time. Tess is here. Hello.
Okay.
So glad to see you. All right. John says, Green Frog, you're an amphibian after my own heart. Love that. Very nice. All right, you guys, it's 20 till, so we have time for one more sprint. Let's make it happen. Oh, I did it again. Hold on. Apparently, YouTube have decided that the thing that everyone wants to see immediately following a 20-minute beach timer is 10 minutes of fireplace. I guess he thinks we're all cold after we come in from the beach. Okay. Exactly. All right, everyone. Today is kind of like, yesterday was like mid-80s here, and today it's still humid as crap, but yeah. All right, everybody, here we go. We're going to get started on our final sprint of the day in 3, 2, 1. Let's write. All right, everybody. I'm so glad that it's so you know how I said there was a tornado warning. Well, it's still got really scary outside all of a sudden. So
no.
no, it's okay. It's just like thunder and lightning. I think we'll be all right, but we have like a big like stucco house, so and we'll be fine. But it was one of those things where I was like, "Ooh, the weather just got scary in like 2 seconds." So
Yeah.
let's say goodbye to our friends. While we're doing that, if you guys could go ahead and just tell us a little about you and your channel as we sign off. I'm going to start with you first this time, Robert. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put it under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft to make the viewer's journey easier. You can check out my roster of videos, and there is a new plan for a couple of series that are coming up in the near future. So stay tuned.
Yay! Fantastic. Fantastic. Michelle, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel before we go.
All right. I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write middle grade and young adult novels. My channel is writing workshops, traditional publishing chat, and writing vlogs.
Thank you both. Sorry to interrupt you there. Thank you guys both for being here. As always today, we will see all of you back next Wednesday, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Eastern. And I did go ahead and drop the link to the video, Michelle's video that we were talking about in the post, or sorry, in the chat. But I'll also, once the stream is over, I'll go back and drop it in the description or the first comment of the video if you are watching this on the replay. So you guys are fantastic. I'm Lisa Daly. I write contemporary romance and nonfiction advice. And if you want to write a book you're super proud of and get it published, this channel is a great place to start. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. We are always, always thrilled when you are here. Look at this. Pascal got 857 words this session. Whoa, that is absolutely fantastic. Heather, thank you so much. Oh yeah, Heather's nearby. We're about an hour apart. Yeah, I know it was really, really scary. We will do it. I'm gonna drop the link in as soon as we do that. And there are links in the description page for Robert's channel and Michelle's channel too. So you guys have no names, can't find. I don't know why that is. Here, I'll tell you. Hold on. Okay. So hi, I'm Lisa Daly. My channel is best-selling author, writing coach. Next to me is Robert Jones. His channel is
The Story Detective.
The Story Detective.
Detective Robert Jones.
That's right. And Michelle is below if you are not familiar. And her channel is
Michelle Schusterman.
Michelle Schusterman. Easy peasy. All right, guys. Thank you. So, Tessa says, hi, Robert, Story Detective. This is Teresa Smythe. Smee? Yay. So great. All right. I was going to say we'll drop some links. Maddie, tell us whose channel you are. You're on Michelle's channel. Okay. Michelle, hook us up, baby.
Oh,
all right.
Sorry. Yeah, I need to do that. Thank you. For
okay. It's okay. You can just copy it right off mine. All right. Anyway, so thanks so much, you guys, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody, keep those keyboards clacking.